Men who were abused by women and tried to tell someone. What was it like? My best friend went through something similar. He happened to hear her on the phone with a friend planning to feign abuse for whatever reason, and he immediately called the cops. He told them what he had heard, but naturally there was nothing they could do about it. A few days later she did it. Cops showed up, but they had his paper trail, and her abused victim act was exaggerated enough that it was obvious she was full of shit. Still though, because there was no actual abuse, she wasn't arrested or anything, and he lived with her in fear for another month before she left town. He basically bought her out of his life and was happy to do so if it meant the emotional torture would stop. And it fucking didn't. For months she would randomly show up in town and break in and steal shit. At first he trusted that paying her to leave would solve the issue. Her name was still on the lease though. So she got property management to let her in one day. He realized what happened and got the lease updated with her name off of it. She still had a copy of the original though, and a month later took it to locksmith while he was at work and got him to let her in. At some point he realized it and changed the locks and called every locksmith in town to explain. This was about 2 years ago, and he finally did seem to get rid of her. Though every now and then a friend says he saw her in town. He's found an awesome girl since and seems so much happier than when we met. They were together for 10 years and he still says to me every now and then, "I'm so glad I heard that phone call and called the cops first. I'd probably be in jail right now." And she became a whore. Selling her body for money, literally. Pretty fitting in my opinion. I know she's someone's daughter and all, but she deserves what she's getting. I was mostly emotionally / mentally abused by her, but she also hit me / threw stuff at me a few times. I sued to keep quiet about it when I was in a relationship with her out of some asinine obligated feeling of trust and privacy towards her. But when we broke up a few months ago, it all just flooded out. Telling other people about the facts had transpired back then really opened my eyes to how horribly she treated me for a big part of the relationship. Luckily I have an amazing group of friends. So they were all understanding. Especially because they had seen her nasty side on a few occasions. Telling my family was a lot harder. They all had this image in their head of her being this perfect girlfriend for me. To her credit, she was perfectly able to act like it when either of our families were around. No matter what happened to you. No matter how big or small it may seem. Try your best to find somebody to talk about it. For me, it helped me realize that she was abusive, that I do deserve better, and that I can do better. It's also just a relief in general to share your pains and burdens with people you love and trust. I was in a similar situation, but not as bad, thankfully. It is so hard to talk about it sometimes because the image she portrayed of being this lovely woman is all people want to remember. Abusers tend to maintain a very heavily curated public person. The person angel. The family man. Community leader. Etc. It's a big part of why abuse victims can find it difficult to tell other people about it. And it can make them question their own perceptions about the abuse as well. The most important thing is to trust yourself. I was 15. Sexually abused by my manager at my first job. One of the biggest fast food joints. Not once, but 4 times. Someone spotted the abuse and reported it to corporate, and she got promotion. I quit and my father ignored it. Police said the company handled it. Men who are abused are ignored. Because it's not supposed to be possible. Thank you everyone for all the super supportive comments and upvotes and hugs. I have to say, this is an amazing community. I'm sorry you were abused like that. Thanks for sharing your story. Men who are abused and ignored. Because it's not supposed to be possible. Regardless of that. 15 is a child, not a man. The fact that someone spotted it and nothing was done is shocking. No one believed me, so I moved away. Just deleted all forms of social media. Got a new job right away before the Rona that pays great, and I just live by myself in a small cabin with good internet connection. I've never felt so stress-free in my life. Apparently she went berserk on Facebook. Showing her true colors after I left, then everyone believed me. I lost my virginity because a girl who I had said no to mounted up and rode me while I was passed out drunk. I woke up from what I thought was a wet dream, finishing inside her with no protection. It messed with me pretty hard because I'd been trying to save my virginity for a serious girlfriend or someone other than just some girl I barely knew. Not to mention the fact that I had no idea if I was about to be an unwilling father. Thankfully not the case. It's like it doesn't exist. Spent years suffering mental torture. Getting arrested for things I hadn't done. Had my self-esteem picked away at until there was nothing left. The police ignored me and on one occasion disregarded solid proof to arrest me on her word that I had assaulted her. Been told that charging my ex for domestic abuse was not in the public interest. Long story short, I had a mental breakdown. Almost cut my throat. Punched my father and went to jail and lost access to my son. My torture lasted for over 10 years and 4 of those were after I left. Men of Reddit, take my advice. It is better to spend your life alone than with someone who manipulates, attacks and slowly tears you apart piece by piece, because even though domestic abuse law is written for all, it is 100% against you. If a woman is framing you, the cops arrive on scene with 100% confidence you're guilty. They'll practically be rolling their eyes as they cuff you. Such a helpless feeling. The police made me leave my own apartment for the night. They also told me I would go to jail too if she said I hit her, even with no evidence and it being an obvious lie. Edit, because this blew up. Thank you very much for the support. I let an ex back in my life for 2 weeks. I live alone. I was 4 years sober at the time and didn't know she was an alcoholic. Within the first few days she's punching walls and fights me when she's drunk. I tried to ignore her altogether when she's drunk. Last day she disappeared for a few hours partying with people at the pool. Comes back with only underwear and a towel. And extremely drunk, saying I took her phone. She keeps threatening me with the police, so I call them myself and I am asked to leave or we both go to jail. I come back the next day and stuff is broken and missing. Also, she's connected to the sheriff's department through her mom, so she knew what she was doing. I got a restraining order and have since moved on with my life. Thank you for the support. I donate a rental home when vacant for abused spouses and children seeking shelter. A social worker cares for them and everything. LeFo quietly moves them from place to place. Usually in the middle of the night. Once or twice a year they'll bring a male spouse in and you can tell these guys are utterly humiliated and defeated. Take them seriously. Their situation is not funny or to be taken lightly. They matter. That's because shelters and services for male victims of abuse have been actively sought out and shut down. Look it up, it's disgusting. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit After Dark. Have a good night.